in the room.
Hi friends, I'm Derek here talking to Faith People. We've done a lot of stuff with policy today. I'm going to cover this argument that I have with Taylor, and I think it's going to be instructive to these guys. And besides, they've written so many notes already, they're probably done it. So they don't have to write this part down. Here's what the argument was, so we can understand what happened there. So I defined crime in terms of rights violations. It doesn't matter what the original argument was about. We didn't get very far in it. We didn't get past my definition. So I defined crime as rights violations. But I didn't define it as that per se. I used this to mean this. And then Taylor said, hold on. That's a made-up definition. Or it's not what people normally mean. Where are you going? Go ahead. Do what you gotta do. That's a made-up definition and not what people normally mean by crime. He then presented a preferable alternative, as he should have, given the fact that he was critiquing my definition, and he gave Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition. I said that's not a good definition, or at least we shouldn't prefer yours. Because it would include accidents that we all agree aren't crimes. Now, notice his definition, his explanation of what makes up why my definition is not a good definition is that it's not how people normally mean the word crime. I said, well, your definition, so I said your definition is not, if we use that definition, then it's not how people normally use the word crime because it includes accidents, and those clearly are not crimes. In fact, to be a crime, something must be distinct from an accident. It could be an accident and a crime, concurrently, depending on the nature of the details, but there are certain accidents that definitely are not crimes that would have been covered by the definition. So we kind of had a similar warrant. My point here was, he said, well, regardless, most people, when they use the word E, he says, regardless, most people think of crime equals illegal. What are you whispering about back there?
He was just talking about like the Taylor thing. Yeah.
What about it?
So your cigarette that shoots fire and Taylor's a gun that shoots thunderbolts.
Okay. I'm a cigarette that shoots fire and Taylor's a gun that shoots thunderbolts?
Yeah.
Okay. I seem to be at a bit of a disadvantage here, Henry.
No, don't worry. They're like
It-
2-inch lightning bolts.
Okay. 2-inch lightning bolts, huh?
Yeah.
All right, good to know. Regardless of people think a crime equals illegal, means against the law, equals against the law. To which I said, that's why we should use my definition, because normally people are using the word wrong. People aren't saying anything meaningful. Now,
Can I quietly play music?
no, not until I'm done with this, okay? Then you can put it in headphones and play music. That's why we should use my definition, because normally people aren't saying anything meaningful when they use the word. They don't know what they mean. Why aren't they saying anything? This is the part that I didn't get into really. Why aren't they saying anything meaningful when they use the word? It's because the law prevents, punishes, and prosecutes and punishes crimes committed by individuals. So the point is that crime itself has to be distinct from law. The law exists to address crime. Crime exists outside of law. We can't have a definition of crime that is about breaking the law without rendering law purposeless, because law is supposed to address crimes that are defined outside of law. There are crimes in the world, whether there's a law that makes it illegal or not. Now, Taylor might have said something along the lines of this just engenders confusion. Or that it doesn't matter because it's the concept of a crime versus the word as it's normally used, and we should use it as normally used for communicability. But my whole point is that people don't use it to mean anything. They say the word but they're just creating a circular nothing, which is a crime is that which is against the law. The law is there to enforce that which is against it. And there's no actual justification for anything. One of the reasons why I believe that we should use this discourse critique, and the way I suggest is because by presenting it as assumed, you don't concede framework. I'm not going to use the word crime incorrectly because I hamstring myself later. So I want to make sure that when I use the word crime, I'm referring to rights violations. Why? Because to the extent that people use the word crime to refer to non-rights violations, using crime as synonymous with illegal produces a situation where where crimes against people by the state are legitimized and rendered legal. we want to hold the state accountable for its crimes, we need to have a definition of a crime that does not include whatever the state says it is. Now, Taylor knows this. He agrees. Taylor agreed that my definition is preferable. But wisely, correctly points out that he didn't use the word. Basically, his final argument before we ended our last argument was, but then why? Then how? Why do we decide on a definition? Basically, it was saying you're being arbitrary, Eric. You're saying, well, because I feel like using my definition of crime in this particular line of argumentation, I'm just going to use it and not going to define it ahead of time. I'm not going to explain how, even though it's contrary to what most people think of meaning crime, I'm going to just use it like that. But my point is that if I use it any other way, I'm actually being contradictory. Whereas the other people aren't being held to this same standard of they need to explain that even though their definition contradicts something, that they're going to use it anyway, whereas their definition contradicts logic and reason and is inconsistent with what the word needs to actually mean for the law to be meaningful. Mine's actually consistent logically with the system. It's just inconsistent with people's conventional definition of it. So, if anything, the best way to do that is to say, convince other people that, oh my God, I've totally gotten that word wrong this whole time. I didn't know it meant that. That'd be a much better outcome than to let them know right off the bat that you're presenting an unconventional definition, and then all of a sudden it defaults to their definition. So, at the end of this battle, Taylor said he had won, but he hadn't. And the reason he hadn't is because it's not actually arbitrary. If it were arbitrary, it wouldn't be warranted with all this stuff, for one thing. And the reality is, it's the best way. It's the best way to promote the non-arbitrary. It's these other definitions that are arbitrary because the nature of things is such that it has to be the way I say it is, or it's the law is illegitimate, doesn't mean anything, it's just then everything's arbitrary. If we just take a crime as anything the government says is a crime, then it's arbitrary. But Taylor would point out, yeah, but when we're arguing that points about crimes, everybody else is assuming it means this, and so you're not even arguing fairly if you are subverting. You say we're playing on a football field, and all of a sudden you go, ta-da! It's actually a baseball field. Then that's not fair in some regard. But my point is, they're not playing on a football field. They're playing on a tragic facsimile of a pantomime of a football field. And when I go in there and say, no, you might as well just acknowledge the fact that this is not even any kind of a field. You thought it was a field. You thought your pants were going to make a field, but it made you was a big pile of crap. So here's the actual field. It looks like this. It looks a little different than the field you wanted, but it's actually playable. You can play on that field because it doesn't fall apart at the moment's touch. You need a definition that doesn't fall apart, that pins some shit down. And I maintain that the best way to change people's thinking on definitions is to argue correctly and logically and soundly about things of public policy, while concurrently expecting the other to be capable, expecting your other to understand as well as you do as a presentational strategy, because then they have an opportunity to either step up to the plate and understand or to fail. Either way, they're going to learn something about it. Okay, so Taylor, you didn't win the argument, but you weren't exactly wrong. It's just you failed to negate the primacy of, you failed to negate the acceptability of my decision as at least equally legitimate to your own. You failed to meet the burden of providing a preferable alternative. Your Merriam-Webster's dictionary does not withstand the same scrutiny that you apply to my definition, although it's a little bit different. The scrutiny I'm applying to yours is more meaningful because it's actually logically inconsistent with things we definitely know aren't crimes. we definitely know it's not a crime to accidentally break the window of a car when you turn on accident and swing the wrist button. You may be civilly liable, but it's not a crime. So, because we know that, we should prefer my definition since he provided no meaningful way of saying my definition is wrong. He didn't provide a counterexample like I did. Therefore, my definition stands. We should prefer my definition. But most of all, even if we shouldn't prefer my definition, the real core argument is my definition equally legitimate? And ought I use it as though it were assumed to be the case that everybody understood it as such? I have won those argument chains because his only critique of mine, his own false victim to it, and his own false victim to an additional critique that I've made of consistency with a known, pinned down reality of an example of something that's an accident is not a crime that would fall under this definition. My definition, therefore, should be preferred, but even if it's not, I win the argument because it's not about making my definition preferred. It's about the legitimacy of this tactic, namely doing a discourse K by manifesting the discourse K rather than by writing a shell or something, you know? Okay, so that's it. That's why I won that argument with Taylor. I'm impressed. He had me on the ropes. He saw an opening when I was being fast and loose, and he jumped on it. And he hammered it pretty good. He had me fighting on ground he wanted me to fight on for a while there until I remembered what to do. You know, I had to return back to the fact that this was ultimately a top-level terrain discourse K, and thus it subsumes all the other arguments. That's why I win, among other reasons. And Taylor, good job. That this is gonna piss you off so much. It's gonna piss you off because you know it's true.